Hello and welcome to Central Coast Poetry Shows, and I'm your host, Jim Russo. My reason for producing this show is this. For about 15 years, I've been reading and attending poetry readings all over California's Central Coast. And during that time, I've had the privilege of hearing and seeing some very talented poets read their own words. This show is to be a platform for those poets to be seen and heard by you. Tonight's guest is Mighty Mike McGee. Mighty Mike McGee is a funny stand-up poet from San Jose, California. He's performed his comedic storytelling and poetry in thousands of cities and towns for millions of years throughout the U.S., Canada, and Europe. Mike won all of the most coveted U.S. Poetry Slam titles and is one of the best-known and liked people in the world of chatty writers. He was appointed Poet Laureate of Santa Clara County, also known as Silicon Valley, for those of you who are out of town, for 2018 and 2019. He's been featured on CBC, NPR, and HBO multiple times and takes pride in making people laugh and cry from the stage. And my next guest is Mighty Mike McGee. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for coming.
Indeed. It's a
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. Thank you. So, what would you like to speak to, sir?
I just wanted to talk today about the idea that poetry is generally considered sort of a lesser art in the world of art. And I think that primarily it's because it's seen as sort of the freebie art. You know, it's something that you can hear and read and see for free anytime, anywhere. Hence why I think so many poets are poor and generally don't make much of a living as poets. And it's pretty rare to meet someone who makes a pretty good living as a poet. And I want to see that change. I want to see that. I want to see it develop into something that is accepted and appreciated by the masses. You know, and I don't know that that's going to happen in my lifetime, but I certainly wouldn't mind helping be a conduit for it. You know, and
Me too.
Bringing it to more ears and more eyes than maybe I would have had the opportunity in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that a good way to start is to pretty much put poetry everywhere you can. You know, and so I run a number of shows in San Jose that would be generally considered variety shows. I don't know that anyone would walk into it expecting to see poetry. I have one show every third Wednesday called the Go-Go Gone Show. It was called the Gong Show until I got a cease and desist. So it is now the Go-Go Gone Show. It makes it really easy to change one letter in a title. And the poets tend to win that one more often than anyone else does. And I think that is a testament to the fact that so many people out there do really enjoy poetry. They just don't realize it. They don't realize that it's something that can be part of their everyday.
You have to spoon feed them.
Yeah. And but you only have to do it like you would a toddler or an infant, right? Just for a little while. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, they can feed themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's important for us to, as poets, everyone who is a poet, who takes pride in calling themselves a poet, it behooves us to create events, opportunities, spaces, and things like this show, for example, to create these things to put it out into the world on a regular basis. Because we listen to music every day. We watch film and television every day. We do so many different things. I see visual art and graphic art every single day. So why not poetry, you know? And the beauty of poetry is that everyone can try it. And I mean, it has the word in its name, poetry. You know, everyone should try it, you know, whether that is writing your own or reading somebody else's. We should all give it a shot. And I think that I grew up a person who grew up very poor and didn't have a whole lot of advantages other than the obvious ones in front of you. But I didn't think that poetry was something that I could do. I didn't think that poetry was something for me. I thought it was for the elites, for the academics. And then I walked into an open mic one day. And that changed everything. I thought, holy crap.
More people need to do that.
More people need to walk into an open mic.
Absolutely.
But if there's only one in your town and it's only once every month or once every other month, then you're not going to get very many people coming. And it really takes regularity. It really takes that opportunity for people to come in on a regular basis, to know that that's going to be available. Like if I walk into that building and I get to experience heart and love and ire and anger and fear and pain and joy and pleasure, and I walk into that building one Thursday and it's not there again for a long time or ever again, I may not ever adhere to the idea that poetry is something that I want and need on a regular basis. So I need to make sure that event is happening every Thursday or every so often, and I need to make sure that young people and old people alike have access to the written word and the spoken word. And so I'm just urging people to go out, start an event, start an open mic, do guerrilla poetry in the street, get on a bus and start saying a poem. People might think you're crazy, but they also might think that you have a heart, and there's nothing wrong with being crazy, especially if you have a heart.
And there might be another poet on that bus.
Right. And they don't know it yet,
Yeah.
They have no idea that it's there. And all it takes, that's the beauty of poetry, is that all it takes to awaken the poet in you is another poem. Exactly. A poem is a seed, and that seed there's so much fruit that can come from that one seed.
Absolutely.
And all I needed at 22 years old was to hear one poem.
So what other events are you involved in before we break away?
So I'm on the board. I'm the secretary of the board for Poetry Center San Jose. I'm the current poet laureate of Santa Clara County. So I have my hands in a lot of different pots. But the one that I'm probably most proud of at this point is every Thursday night I run the live lit writers open mic in downtown San Jose. If you've ever eaten at Original Joe's in downtown San Jose, we're just a couple doors down on South First Street. It's a really wonderful time. It's taken a little while for us to build it up, but in the last 2.5 years, it has really built up.
Well, I've been there. You've got a crowd.
It's lovely. It really is. And we do it every week. And it's the only open mic that I know of right now that caters to literature. Because I specifically didn't call it a poetry open mic, because I didn't want people to not show up. I like sneaking in poetry into people's lives. I like sort of slipping them a pill they weren't expecting, which sounds horrible, but I don't mean it that way. But I figured if somebody comes in hoping to hear some stories and they also end up hearing poetry and they end up enjoying it, more power to all of us. Absolutely. It behooves all of us for us all to hear poetry. So every Thursday I run the Live Lit Writers Open Mic, and I actually have a couple of new hosts who run the first and third for me so that I can actually go out and do other things. Tina Medueno and Rachel Van Gaenhoven are my hosts for first and third Thursdays. And it's just become such a lovely event. We get probably, I would say, an average of about 25 readers, which is a far cry from the 4 to 6 readers we would get 2 years ago.
Right.
And so apparently Thursday night is a great night for poetry and literature in San Jose. And then I have a number of other events, some one-offs, a couple of events that run every month.
Well, we're going to run your where people can access you in the credits so they can get a hold of you and find out where all these events are and when.
Yeah.
Right now, I'd like to do this. I ask all my poets, all my guests, of all the poems you've written, do you have a?
I do.
And the title?
The Graveyard Shift.
Okay. What I'd like you to do, Mike, is step to the podium and read that poem first, and then give us what else you have.
Glad to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mighty Mike.
Now, I've been told that in 1500s England, they buried people prematurely due to a comatose state caused by drinking alcohol from lead and pewter cups. To eradicate these awful mistakes and to prevent many wrongful deaths, they hired men to sit in the cemeteries with lanterns and shovels to listen for ringing bells. These bells were tied to twine, and the twine was run underground to the wrists of the deceased. If the person awoke inside their coffin and scrambled for escape, their bell would sound 6 feet above, and the diggers would start digging. Hence, those buried alive were saved by the bell, and the diggers' work became known as the first graveyard shift. The only people at that time willing to work in the dark and sleep during the day. So, I met my new graveyard job at the mall. I stock toys for the kiddies at Christmas time. I work in the dark like Quasimodo because they would never hire me for a daylight position. I guess I just don't appeal to their regular shoppers. And I definitely don't appeal to the kind of people that stop by our store after spending a few grand at Nordstrom. Come see the big hairy guy. Come one, come all, come down to the mall, see for yourself this big giant elf. I cannot dance for $1, and I will not give up my dreams for a job. I work in the dark to enjoy the sun. I plan my life during my 10-minute breaks while the nocturnal animals play in the empty parking garage, amongst littered shopping bags, receipts, and price tags. As the world sleeps, dreaming of designer clothes, bottled water, and a Beverly Hills lifestyle, I debate with myself whether or not I have time to suck down one more cigarette. And if you can see the blue in this collar, then you know that I have learned quite well just how to differentiate between the daywalkers and those that roam the night. I prefer the light of the moon over your basic fluorescent office fixture. The kind of light that assumes a distrust between you and your boss. The kind of light that peeks into and around every corner. Those are the lights the stores at malls use to scare away the shoplifters, and those are the lights they shut off when the graveyard shift punches in. They know that something's going to be missing in the morning, so what's the point? The graveyard shift is creative, taking what is never rightfully theirs, but obviously no one else's either. There's something so missing in the morning when the day crew takes over that the customers can smell it under the hot lights of omniscience. It is the creativity born with night walkers. It is how much the day hates the night. You'll never see a pigeon hanging out with an owl. And you'll never see Beverly Hills hand me her phone number as she leaves the mall with her bags of, "Hey, look at me," while I enter the mall in an air of, "Hey, look at me." We're all the same, Beverly. Only you look pretty hot in your outfit. The way it exposes your midriff, your flat stomach. I just wish you could say to me, "Hey, McGee, you look good in that dictionary." The way it exposes your ideals and manipulations, your faults and your ambitions. But we seem to take two different escalators to get to the same place in life. I'm kind of like banished royalty, and you're upper class white trash. Day and night can never make love. They can only tease each other in a foreplay they call twilight. And the only things I regret at 3 a.m. as I solve the world's problems and chain smoke outside the mall is that I have no bell to ring. And rainbows never come out at night. This next one I want to do for you is, it's in the same vein. It's longing. It's that longing for not being so lonely at night, I guess. I wrote this for someone who I thought I could save and make her fall in love with me in the process. Turns out it doesn't work that way. Every day, I rewrite her name across my chest so that those who wish to break my heart will know who to answer to later. She has no idea that I taught my tongue how to make pennies, and every time our mouths were to meet, I would have slipped a coin to the back of her throat and made a wish, because I wished that someday my head on your belly might look like home, like doubt-to-doubt resuscitation, because time is supposed to mean more than skin. She didn't know that I taught my arms to close around her clocks so that we could both withstand the fallout from her autumn. She is so explosive. Volcanoes watch her and learn. Terrorists want to strap her to their chest because she's a cause worth dying for. And maybe someday time will teach me to pick up her pieces, put her back together, and remind her to click her heels, but she doesn't need a wizard to remind her that I was here all along. Lady, let's catch the next tornado home. Let's plant cantaloupe trees in our backyard, and then one of these days I'll remind you that I do not like cantaloupe, and they sure as hell don't grow on trees. But we can laugh about it. And then maybe we can plant things we've never heard of, because I've never heard of a woman who can make flawed look so beautiful the way you do. And the word smitten is to how I feel about you, what a kiss is to romance. So maybe my lips to yours could be the penance to this confession, because I'm the only one preaching your defunct religion, sitting alone at your altar, praising you out of faith. I cannot. We cannot do these hard knock lives alone. You are all the softness a rock dreams of being, the mistakes the rain makes at picnics and Mother Nature bears witness in much, much better places. So yes, I will gladly take on your ocean just to swim beneath you so that I can kiss the bends of your knees in appreciation for the work they do, keeping your head above water. So this next one is a little longer, and it's also in that theme of the night. And I had a real, a very sort of love-hate relationship with working overnight. And this one is it's called Dirty Dimes, and this all took place in one night. It's a true story. I now know how unnoticeable I am in my new uniform. My appearance must seem so uncaring. Right now, I'm one of 3 people wearing a tie at 11 p.m. in San Jose, California. I'm 4 days and 3/8 into my new graveyard shift at Walgreens, one of America's mom-and-pop super drugstores. Those that use my services at night know that they can only come out once civilization has laid their heads to dream of newer, crisper $50 bills, maybe even hundreds. I really don't care that I have no money. They can put the aroma of a new car in a bottle. Why not that new money smell in an aerosol can? I'll reek of cash when I get home. I just won't have any of my own, but I really don't care. Retail's a whore that never sleeps, constantly screwing everyone that comes in for one kiss, and I'm her pimp, selling off everything she has and everything she is. Aisle number 3 is full of Easter candy, like a pink and blue bunker of war, only the soldiers here are children armed with cap guns and silly string, or at least I assume they are because I'm sure I'm asleep in the daytime when it all takes place. This job is bullshit. Whether I'm flipping burgers or telemarketing some cheap, toxic product, it's all the same. It's not what I want or should be doing. My new boss watches me intently. She follows behind me and rearranges things I place incorrectly. I am 3 years old again and I could get used to it. My new uniform fits me like a condom on a vagina or a straitjacket on a snake. At least it's comfortable. I suppose I could get used to this. My boss has been here for at least 3 years. I've never held a job for that long. I don't think I could ever devote that much time to someone else's money. It is my money too, some of it. Even though it makes me feel weird, it's still my money that I'm earning, and I sweat for that paycheck every 2 weeks. Maybe someday one of them might set me free. Now, 1/10 of the money I put into that cash register is mine. I counted it. I figured it out. It's not an exact science, but it keeps me sane and sweating, and this is when I start to care. I count the customers in tens, and every 10th customer is technically responsible for part of my next paycheck. It's easier to put a random face to it all. Whatever it is they purchase, they are buying it from me, from my sweat, from my aching feet, from my 8 hours on the clock, and from my 3 hours to and from home on the bus. My 7th customer makes a line at my register with nothing in hand but a wad of money that smells like gratuity. He's a brawny bastard who looks like he just woke up from a respectful nap. He asks for instant film at 1:46 a.m. He doesn't want a stranger developing the pictures. He drives a cab the same time I clean this store. Most of his passengers are inebriated, lonely women who want nothing more than anonymous backseat coitus and a ride home. They probably regret paying this man because for him it's all profit. He shows me pictures of his models. Large-breasted 30 and 40-somethings sprawled out on the hood of his cab, looking drunk, horny, and married. The nipples in the photos are clearer than my thoughts on the actual situation. I asked to see them, and now I regret it. These ladies probably have children I went to school with. But I'm really trying not to care. 20 minutes later, customer 8 rings my bell, and I rush to the counter. I smile inside because she's a beautiful woman, and what would a woman this gorgeous be doing in my store at 2 a.m.? Her handbasket of groceries does 2 things. It immediately answers my question, and it gives her a future, or at least a Saturday night. One that won't be alone because condoms are something you buy before you need them, just in case. She must know the man she's meeting up with, unless large condoms are a safe assumption between strangers. Maybe she's getting a ride from that cab driver, but it is my hopeful assumption that she is too young and too pretty for his portfolio. I ring her up, she pulls out her checkbook, and I want to laugh at her because she's clearly in a rush, and I am in her way. But for some reason she has decided to make her purchase with the slowest form of payment known to man. So I take my sweet time filling out the information from her driver's license. She never makes eye contact with me. She knows I know, but I really don't care. Customer number 9 makes her way to my register. She's a tired mother who works late to raise her kids. She seems proud, even though she still has her Denny's apron on. Her name tag says Tina, then Old Maid underneath it in invisible ink. I see it, and she wears it well. All I am is the guy who rings up her bleach, detergent, toothpaste, milk, cereal, and children's cough medicine. Children's cough medicine. I feel sorry for her kid. I hate being sick myself, but I really don't care right now. She takes her change and leaves with a smile, and I can only hope that I put it there. I go back to aisle number 3 to continue its reconstruction, destroyed by daytime warfare, starring cowboys and Indians, carelessness and capitalism. I get paid to lie. The door chime rings. I hear 2 women enter the store. They sound amused and hurried. I work on the shelf in front of me and wait for the bell on the counter. They are customer number 10. Their money is mine, and they'll never know they personally helped me pay rent. I'm eager to meet them. Once they've completed their shopping, they ring the bell on the counter. I glide past the peanut brittle and crayons and turn toward the cash register, where I do see 2 women. They sound amused and hurried, barely 30, looking for me while I patiently wait, and they patiently wait for my slow legs to reach them. My eyes are drawn to the counter, then to the items that they are buying, then to the skin of the woman closest to me. She's wearing a man's dress shirt, completely unbuttoned and no bra. The skin I see is her stomach and her chest. I can see a bit of her right breast, so I look up and away, ashamed. I'm forced to look at her face now, which is far too thin to be healthy. A bandana squeezes her bald head tightly. Her eyes bulge like those of surprise. Her sunken face looks like that of a former beauty queen. She stares at the products as I ring them up, and I try not to stare at her small breasts every time her shirt swings open. So I'm realizing that she might not make it till Christmas. Her friend stands behind her, clean and strong. Maybe she's her lover. Maybe they're related. But none of the items I'm ringing up tell me who the friend is. They're cheap products. So I assume that she is her lover. But maybe this woman, this exposed woman, she's ill. She bleeds from sores, wounds. Maybe she's contagious, but she's afflicted with something. And these products have no brand name, so she's poor. They're poor together, and they're about to give me their money. She must have cancer. I want to strike up a conversation, something to get my mind away from this apparent mortality. Maybe she has AIDS. Maybe she shared the wrong needle with the wrong person, but every dying human looks like a junkie at some point. Her friend looks at her with worry, cementing all of my assumptions. She is her guardian, the one who will watch and is watching her die, the one who will pick out her cheap coffin, the only one willing to bury her. And there is so much love between these two, and I'm taking up way too much of their precious time, so I speed up the process and I bag their stuff as quickly as possible, and I hit the total button. $3.67 in low-grade medical supplies. Maybe these items will help her live another day. I wish I had just given them to her, but then I would be another man reminding a living woman that she's dying. Justice sleeps sometimes. The friend reaches into her pocket for some money, but the dying woman beats her to the counter with a handful of dimes. Dirty dimes. The kind collected in a cup on a street corner. Downtown dimes discarded by uptown businessmen and women who aren't dying this very minute. If everything would just freeze before me, I could let loose and cry and not disturb their shopping experience. But something deep down inside of me, in a place people rarely visit in public situations, there are picket signs being held up on my guts that read, "Let her see how you feel right now," and "You're just jealous because she gets to leave." Back in the real world, my pity turns to anger as she picks lint out of the change on the counter. I'm so sad that this nice woman is so ill, but she's cracking smiles at me with big teeth through thin lips. She knows I know. She may be content with death, but for some reason, I can't be. I watch her count the dimes off the counter and into her bony little hand, and I count along with her, because I hope she comes up short. I take 36 dimes and I try to assume some sort of apathy, but it never works. And these women leave with smiles on their faces that I couldn't have possibly given them. And for the rest of the night, I can't focus on shit. But I make sure that every customer after them gets a dirty dime in their change. And I try not to cry because Walgreens doesn't pay you for that sort of thing. It is 3 a.m. and I'm so tired of trying not to care about people who don't know me. I toured a lot, and because I toured so much, I found that being in love with someone was very difficult when you were thousands of miles away. So I wanted to get some advice from someone who I thought might be a bit of an expert on distance. So I wrote a letter. Dear Neil Armstrong, I write this to you as she sleeps down the hall. I need answers that I think only you might have. When you were a boy and space was simple science fiction, when flying was merely a daydream between periods of history and physics, when gifts of moon dust to the one you loved could only be wrapped in your imagination, before the world knew your name and before it was a destination, what was the moon like from your backyard? Your arm, strong, warm, wrapped across her shoulders, both of you gazing up from your back porch summers before your distant journey. But upon landing on the moon, as the earth rose over the sea of tranquility, did you look for her? I mean, what was it like to see our planet and know that everything you could be, all you could ever love and long for, was just floating before you? Did you, by any chance, happen to write her name in the dirt when the cameras weren't looking? Or surround both of your initials with a heart for alien life to study 1,000,000 years from now? What is it like to love someone so distant? What words did you use to bring the moon back to her? And what did you promise in the moon's ear about the girl back home? Can you teach me how to fall from the sky? I ask you this not because I doubt your feat. I just want to know what it's like to go somewhere no man had ever been, just to find out she wasn't there. To realize your moonwalk could never compare to the steps that led to her. I now know that the flight home means more. And every July, I think of you. I imagine the summer of 1969, how lonely she must have felt while you were gone. You never went back to the moon. And I believe that's because it doesn't take rockets to get you where you belong. I see that in this woman down the hall. And sometimes she seems so much further, but I'm ready for whatever steps I must take to get to her. I've seen so many skies. The moon always looks the same, so I gotta say, Neil, that rock you landed on ain't got shit on the rock she's landed on. You walked around, took samples, and left, but she's built a fire, cleaned up the place, and I hope she decides to stay. Because on this rock, we can both breathe. Mr. Armstrong, I don't have much. Many times have I been upside downtrodden, but with these empty hands comes a heart that is full more often than the moon. She's becoming my world, pulling me into orbit, and I now know I may never find life outside of hers. So I want to give her everything that I don't have yet. So yes, for her, I would go to the moon and back, but not without her. I mean, why? When we could claim the moon for each other with flags made from sheets down the hall, and I'd risk it all to kiss her under the light of earth, the brightness of home. But I can do all of that and more right here, wherever she is. And when we gaze up with her arms around me, I will not promise her gifts of moon dust or flights of fancy. Instead, I will gladly give her all the earth she wants in return for all the earth she is, the sound of her heartbeat and laughter, and all the time it takes to learn to fall from the sky, down the hall, and right into love. Man, I would do it every day if I could just land next to her. 5, 4, 3, 2, one small step for a man, but she's one giant leap for my kind. It's called Lucky. I love you. You with eyes so open right now. You with a warmth you'd never keep all to yourself. You with arms, with feet to carry those arms, to wrap that warmth around those who often forget their own. You. I love you. And I'm so lucky to have been in that same first moment with you. The one where our eyes met. And we could have said no, but it was the 11th of Yes-Vember. The moment was born to be outlived. I'm so lucky to be the first you ask to dance and the first you beckon to retrieve a new roll of toilet paper when we run out. I'm so lucky to watch your little hand gesture so urgently out from the bathroom, emoting in a layman's sign language the desperation that's probably happening beyond the door behind you. The way you pull the roll from my hand is not unlike the way you pull my hand onto the dance floor. Always sudden, always urgent. Yes, I will gladly have this dance with you. And when we are tired, just promise to hold me, because I am just so lucky to be wrapped by such an imperfect spectacle of joy to my eyes and pen. My pen. I wish I could do more than just talk you onto paper. These words mean nothing without the context of you. How will I ever dance you into volumes of poetry? You are the pen I hold, the ink I pull across the page. You are the page. And often it seems that your being is telling my hands what to do, or they know who to be and what to do once you're around. My hands still smell like you, like your body, like iron, luck, and love. 2 out of 3 of those make sense, so maybe luck is an active ingredient on an atomic level. That's why we never see it. It doesn't explain the impact of magic or the impact of your body next to me on this bed, this ground zero. Your atoms are exploding, yet you breathe so soft. Your face is the only part of you that says, I am nuclear, explosive beauty, simply held up by bones. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mighty Mike McGee, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for tuning in to Central Coast Poetry Shows. My name is Jim Russo, your host. My guest has been Mighty Mike McGee, the current Poet Laureate of Santa Clara Valley, and for those of out of town, that's also known as Silicon Valley. Find us again, and thanks for watching. Good night.
I'm beating up the street tonight. I slay